Well, 2023 was the hottest year on record, according to some research out today from NASA and NOAA. Each year, NASA calculates what's called a global temperature anomaly to see how much temperatures have changed compared to what they were between 1950 and 1980. And in 2023, June through December came in as the hottest months on record. July ranked as the hottest month ever recorded. And keep in mind, these records started being kept back in 1880. And as we brace for yet another rainstorm that could bring flooding to the area, it is important to understand how higher global temperatures impact extreme weather patterns.
We're seeing changes in the water cycle that lead to more heavy precipitation events and in some regions more droughts. And we know that those events have increased with warming to date, and that future warming will lead to even more increases in these extremes.
Now, we've seen this week what heavy rain events can do to our area, but as environmental scientists from Quinnipiac University points out, it's also changing our winters here in the state.
I grew up in Connecticut. I was just reminded through one of, the Google Photos or something, that 13 years ago to this day, we got like our third 18-inch snowstorm in the year. And obviously that's not happening anymore, right?
And having mild winters doesn't just mean you get to ditch the heavy snow gear. It can also have health consequences that many of us may not realize.
There's an increase in stress for crops when you increase temperature significantly, and that's going to affect how we can feed ourselves. There's an increase in disease. So those vector animals like ticks, they're not going dormant because it just doesn't freeze long enough. We see increased extreme heat waves, which is obviously problematic for vulnerable people, but just really in general, because then we're putting a lot of stress on our electricity system. So this is going to affect all different aspects of our lives.
Now, you've likely heard previously that we're having one of the hottest years on record in years past, but research from NASA and NOAA shows 2023 surpassed those records. Now, the animation you're looking at shows the seasonal cycle of temperature variation on the Earth's surface. Once we hit the 1980s, that variation grew beyond the 4+ degree Fahrenheit mark, and by 2023, we're well over 5.
So every year that we have a hottest year on record, that means that it's hotter than the second most hot year on record, right? And so we're now seeing that basically since 2017, every year has been hotter, with the exception of 2020. And so we're going to just keep seeing this effect snowball, right? Because we're kind of at this tipping point where things are just going to start happening faster and faster, and we're going to see warmer and warmer and warmer. And so
now, it is important to understand the historical context surrounding this global warming because the Earth experiences this on a cyclical basis. It just happens on a scale of many thousands of years. That was Dr. Rebecca Stein you heard there. She says there are two main things that control global surface temperature: the orbital pattern, where the Earth is in its rotation around the sun, and what's in the atmosphere, or the blanket that surrounds the Earth.
So 6,000 years ago, the axial tilt made it so that the Earth was in a position towards the sun where it was getting more radiation from the sun. But the CO2 in the atmosphere, the blanket that was around it, was about the same as it was before we started burning fossil fuels. So the reason that 6,000 years ago was so warm was just basically where the Earth was positioned in the solar system.
That's the last time the Earth was experiencing warming like this. But Dr. Stein says there is a big difference about what's happening to our planet right now.
The reason that things are different now is because we are now changing the composition of the blanket. We're putting on a warmer blanket. So Earth is still moving around the sun, and it's still moving around the sun in the same patterns that it's been moving around the sun since, we've been able to predict it. And so we're still going to see those patterns, but we're now putting on top of that we have changed how thick our blanket is.
And Dr. Stein says we're actually supposed to be seeing cooling right now. And while it's easy to get really down about this topic, she shares some hopeful advice. The Earth, she says, is resilient and has experienced this before and can adapt.
I don't think anybody's really excited about cranking CO2 up to the levels that it was in the Cretaceous when dinosaurs were the main organism prevalent on Earth. And I don't think we don't really know how mammals will do under those conditions, but it's not that Earth has never seen anything more extreme than this.
Now, another piece of optimism here, Dr. Stein calls the technology available now to tackle this problem is incredible.
So we are constantly innovating in a way where we're starting to make grounds on how we can, one, stop adding so much CO2 to the atmosphere, and then two, even take in some of the greenhouse gases and put them into storage, basically.
And Dr. Stein says we can do our part to help change the conversation, such as pushing our local lawmakers to address how climate change is impacting our communities. Money will be a big aspect of that conversation. NASA says last year through December 9th, there were 25 confirmed disasters that hit the United States and resulted in more than $1 billion in damages for each one.